So my question to you all is, how do you embrace your authenticity in spaces where people expect you to conform to cultural norms and standards?
I would say for me, being authentic is the key. Being authentic really means being honest.
Yeah.
And I consider myself an honest person. Each day when I go to my job, I'm definitely authentic. There are times when I'm in a meeting, I'm the only one of color in the room. That's when I utilize my authenticity. I make sure my voice is heard. That's very important because there was a time when we couldn't utilize our voice. So thank God that has changed. And I'm able to utilize my voice, be heard, be seen, and add value. So to me, authenticity is the key.
So I embrace my authenticity by being myself. And for me, part of being myself is wearing my hair naturally. And that is something that gets commented on every single day, every time I step outside the door. And even though people comment on my hair constantly, I don't allow it to affect me or bring me down, whether what they say is positive or negative, because there was a time when we couldn't even wear our hair how we wanted in the workspace or kids going to school, which is why they had to pass the Crown Act, just for people to be able to wear their hair how it comes naturally out of their head to try and get an education or even be able to get a job, which is something I think is ridiculous because sometimes you don't have the funds or the ability to go and get your hair done professionally. And so you have to do it yourself with what you have access to.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody, to yet another Kaya. I am your host, Dr. Eric Edwards. Welcome to Kaya. It's my joy and privilege and pleasure to be able to bring you all a great discussion on this evening. I'm surrounded by a great group of brothers right here. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. Let's start all the way to my far right to your left online. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man.
What's your name?
Glad to be here. Oh, my name is Reggie. Reggie Woods. Glad to be here and have this conversation with a great group of brothers, man.
Welcome back, Reggie, man. Definitely good to have you back.
Absolutely.
You all may have seen this guy before when we partnered, 2 years ago when you been on Kaya?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back. Who are you, man? How you been?
Keontae, man. Been good. Keontae Easter. So glad to be back.
Thank you, man. Definitely good to have you back. We have a new face on Kaya over here to my left, to your right. Who are you? How you doing?
I'm doing good. What's up, everyone? My name is Jamar Posey.
So how you so Jamar, you're one of our newer young adults here at St. Paul. And this is your first time on Kaya. Just tell us what has been your experience like with St. Paul Baptist Church?
My experience has been really good, honestly. St. Paul has given me it's more the traditional church, Southern Black Baptist, in which I grew up with and knowing, coming from Georgia. You know, I've only been in Charlotte for about just over 3 years now. So when I was initially moved here looking for churches, came across here, actually, Brother Reggie Ross told me about the church, came, I've been enjoying myself ever since.
Wow, well, welcome, man. Definitely good to have you. And then one more person to introduce. Let's go all the way to the far left. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm Adrian Jones, and I'm just excited to be back with the Kaya panel. I think it's my fourth one. So
yeah. Well,
excited.
welcome back, Adrian. Definitely good to be amongst some great brothers on tonight. Our topic on tonight is brother to brother. This topic really was inspired by all of the things that you may have seen in the media over the past couple of weeks. Personally tragic suicides within the Black male community. You have incidences of abuse going on, but then you have also the larger conversation of depression and suicidality, low life satisfaction, things of that sort. So that's why we're talking about brother to brother. So on this Kaya, this is our topic. In her book, The Will to Change, author Bell Hooks discusses the many stereotypes and circumstances that many Black men have encountered in the United States. While describing emotional awareness in Black men, Hood states that the emotional suppression isn't a personal flaw in men. It is a learned survival strategy within a system that punishes vulnerability and rewards emotional withdrawal. Also, in that same article where the author quoted bell hooks, the author is saying this. Why the name of the article is Why Men Struggle with Emotional Expression. The author says this: from an early age, boys learn that emotional control is required. Crying is framed as failure, fear is reframed as weakness, and need is something to outgrow. The unfortunate truth is that in the past and present, Black men have been suppressed by a society that seeks to detach Black men from what it means to be a human. Many Black men have been forced to ignore their emotions, suppress their need for assistance, and reject vulnerability. Many Black men are suffering in silence because society and culture has determined and defined what it means to be a Black man. Furthermore, Black men are often expected to be a Superman. They are expected to solve every problem, provide every answer, and hold everything together. As a result, many Black men are experiencing mental health crises. Depression and stress are emotions that many Black men have not developed healthy coping strategies for. Statistics show that Black young adults are more likely to have feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and worthlessness compared to white adults. But Black men are among some of the least likely people in society to seek assistance with mental health. Most recently, statistics have also shown that suicide is the third leading cause of death for Black men ages 15 to 24. Truth is that society must change its treatment of Black men. We must show that Black men are important and have value. If we're going to change society's perception and treatment of Black men, it requires us to oppose stereotypes, correct falsities, and support one another. It's time that we give men space to process, to feel, to cope, and to recognize their worth. Therefore, in this CAYA, we want to discuss the importance of mental health, of seeking support, finding community, and recognizing one's value and worth. We want to bring awareness to the many circumstances that many Black men experience. Equally as important, we want to show Black men that we are here for you, that we see you, that we hear you, and that we care for you. So with that said, are you all ready to get into this conversation on today? So let's get it. So let's start with our opening question. In your opinion, and we don't have to go in any particular order, so just feel free to answer. In your opinion, what does it mean to be a Black young adult male in the United States? Start with Reggie.
Wow. Man. I mean, I think that's a really good question. In the process of getting to today, I was, asking myself that, and I think it's a really complex question, and there's layers to it. I think there's always like this balance and duality, right? Like I think what is asked of us, and then who we really are from that standpoint. I think being a Black man today is having self-control in situations where you necessarily shouldn't have to, right? Like, or being the bigger person in a lot of situations where you necessarily shouldn't have to. I think it calls for a lot of sacrifice in ways as well. I think sometimes it's like almost a crisis of identity in some ways too. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that kind of like came to me at first.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Others, what does it mean to be a Black young adult male in these United States?
I'd say it depends on who you ask. I think if you're asking from like a young Black male's perspective, like we're still probably figuring out identities and probably trying to shed our own different things, but also try to walk into some different callings or responsibilities. So I think that it could come from a lot of different angles as far as, are we asking like the exterior culture, what does that mean, or the young Black man himself, what that means, and that could be a hard question to answer.
Well, for you, for you, what does it mean?
For me, I think it means I like it. It's proud. You're rare. I'm a rarity. In a lot of different spaces. I feel that, and I don't necessarily want to shed that. But I also think that with that comes, like what Reggie's saying, a lot of pressure too, to kind of walk a certain way or walk how you want to and talk how you want to. So
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing, but it's also very complex.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So going based off Keontae, I agree with what you both have said. For me, because I've been real focused on community, so I want to go communal. It's to follow the rich legacy of other Black men who have gone before me, that have charted treacherous waters, to make change, to attend to community well being, and to serve God. So I'm thinking about W.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass. These are two people who I deeply admire. Matter of fact, I have speeches and books by them that I just read their words. But people who were just scholars, intellects, but not for themselves, but for the sake of the community, for the sake of wanting to improve life. And for me as a Black young adult male, it's my responsibility to carry that mantle, and to help to actualize their dreams and their hopes, for what the world will be, right? One where we're more equal, one where justice is actualized, one where everyone, regardless of race, color, creed, sexual orientation, that we're all God's children and living as God's children. So that's for me, what it means to be a Black young adult male in 2026 in the United States. What about you two down here? Do y'all have something or?
What it means for me is breaking stereotypes. The media likes to portray us as, bound to go to jail, or we're going to have 3 different people pregnant by the time we're 22. And so that really shouldn't be who we are. Right now, we have the most opportunity that we've ever been afforded, and it's still not enough, but it's progress from where we were 50 years ago, 40 years ago. And so it's up to us to try to make the most of it, to try to go to college and get degrees, to try to be leaders in our community, do things that the media doesn't want us to do or want to shed light on.
No, that's good.
Yeah, those are some really great points.
Yeah.
Amazing points. And honestly, I feel like there's only so much I could say. But again, similar fashion as far as what Reggie was saying, thought about this exact question on my way up here this evening, I guess I should say. And I just honestly like to sum it up with 3 particular adjectives: unique, resiliency, and scary. And I know just over the course of the next hour, we're going to have some deep dives for sure, some deeper conversations. But I know with my own experiences in itself, that's why I use those 3 particular adjectives. Again, I'm pretty sure they'll come up in topic conversation down the road. So looking forward to it.
Thank you for that. Everybody else said something so amazing and marvelous, and speaks to the diverse perspectives, but also the difficulty of being a Black man, living in these times. So let's go to our first topic, and we really want to get into the portions of mental health. Fortunately, we have a mental health therapist here, and we have somebody who's going to help us to navigate some of these questions. Also offer some practical things, tangible things that a lot of us can take some things away and kind of practice at home. But also there's questions that we all can elaborate on and give answer to. So let's start with this. What internal and external battles are Black men currently experiencing? When you think about yourselves, when you think about what you've seen on social media, what internal and external battles are Black men currently experiencing?
I feel like our life is just it's an act of protest. It's an act of like radicalism in a sense as well, right? Like as Adrian stated earlier, it's like what society kind of paints you to be versus who you truly are, right? And so every time you wake up and leave out the house, it's like you gotta think about that duality, right? Like the way what you wear, right? How you talk, how you carry yourself. You have to always think about these different things, before you leave out the house. And that's tiring. But I feel like we've all gotten to the point where we recognize it's a must. Like we
Yeah.
have to do it.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to piggyback off of that because you just bring me back to me being raised as a young boy. The
Yeah.
first thing you're raised is you always have to look a certain way.
Yeah.
They when you get to a certain position in
Right,
society,
right.
maybe you can start looking a certain different way. You know, like for instance, I wanted dress when I was a little kid. My dad said, "No, you're gonna be clean cut."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Get a ball fade.
yeah, get bald fade. If you have a beard, you're gonna be straight,
Yeah.
neat. So you have that aspect of you have to look a certain way because the minute you walk out the house, you're immediately being judged, right?
Yes.
You're immediately being measured up by society. No matter how brilliant you are, no matter how gifted you are, unfortunately, we're judged based off our looks. So you just brought that to my mind. Yeah, so I agree with what you said, man.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunate, but I mean, it's the load that we carry
Yeah.
and that we have to bear. And unfortunately, we can't feel sorry for ourselves to do it. You know, like it's so, like you said before, like there's a lot of black men that came before us that carried a lot. You know, and it's on us to continue that.
Yeah. Others, what internal, external battles are black men currently experiencing?
Go ahead.
I think just general comparison is a big thing.
Yeah.
Comparing yourself to the next black man to the next white man. You walk down the street and the person next to you has a Patek watch and designer shoes and designer coat, and you don't got all that, and so then it becomes a stress. Like, how am I going to be able to get that for myself, or something that's also realistic with us black men is a lot of us, not a lot of us, but some of us have big families at young ages, as I touched on earlier. So it's like you see these people on social media be able to provide for these big families, and you're struggling. So it's best to not compare yourself to others, but just look internally and see where you can be the best you that you can be, provide for yourself, provide for the people around you, and not base your success off of what other success looks like.
So we have comparison, and then we have kind of this external factor of, right, how you're going out into public, right? You're kind of being judged, and all these perceptions are being formed. Jamar, you want to add something to that?
No, definitely great points by both speakers, but I think it also just changes over the course of time. And I say that just in terms of the battles you go through in high school are going to be different battles you go through college, if you are fortunate to go off to school, whatever it is. And then those battles are going to change as well as you become older and mature in life. And I say, just based upon, again, those 2 points, comparison, we are currently living in a social media driven age.
Yeah.
Everything that we see is going to be posted on social media. And the crazy part about that is, though, when it comes to social media, it's only the good that's being posted.
Yeah.
You never see the true behind the scenes. So again, going back to the comparison, you get lost in that. And it could be a struggle, especially just as a individual, but let alone as a black man, because of all the stigma, the trauma, and just everything that encompasses us as black men in today's world.
Yeah, I want to add to that because everybody said some great stuff along with what we see with a lot of black men are dealing with, along with comparison, and this is an offshoot of it. The feeling of not being enough. Like you're just working incredibly hard, but yet you don't kind of have that feeling of satisfaction for your own self. Like, I'm doing all this hard work, but I'm not where I wanted to be. I'm doing all this hard work, I'm not who I want to be. And I think a lot of us are facing that real question of, are we enough? So Keontae, let's turn to you, man.
Yeah.
So you hearing all these battles, you have comparison, you have social media and feeding what life looks like, kind of this falsity of what life should be, but what it's not. You have the feelings of not enough. How when we are feeling those type of feelings, how do we cope with this, man?
I think that's a good question. I think it just depends really on the person and really a lot of the knowledge you're able to hopefully get. You know, hopefully we can share a few things here. But honestly, I think that initially you might not healthily cope with it, right? You might look towards something to make you feel better in the moment, something temporary. And I think that the hard thing is trying to figure out, how do I do the work to find like a skill or a group or somebody to rely on to talk about it in the health, even just talk about it. Because I think that especially when you start talking about the internal struggles, I didn't grow up having a lot of spaces to talk about. I mean, yes, you might have even had a church family or your family, but some of those things you might not even want to vocalize to that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to raise somebody's worry about you and things like that. So I think that it really does take intentional conversations or access to knowledge about like a coping skill. Deep breathing is a big one. Journaling, right? Having different ways to kind of distract yourself in a work environment. You know, taking a walk even, or having a space for yourself, just some time in your schedule to not do anything. So we'll definitely talk about some good coping skills, but I think that it starts with having like the knowledge to, or access to knowledge. And then you got barriers like insurance, where everybody, unfortunately, you know, you can't get to a licensed professional. So, you know, maybe you can find different spaces that are not as set down like that to try to talk about what you're going through and vocalize.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you good.
Well, no, I was just gonna piggyback off what Keontae was saying as far as like having access to that knowledge, and I think it ties into like community too, and like having like older brothers or throughout that can kind of guide you and mentor you throughout that too. And I think that's one thing that I'm grateful for is like so many men in this church like helped me become the man that I am today, man. And it's like when I come into the church and I still see them, and it's like sometimes it's not even what they said, but it's just like watching them, right? And you learn from that, and now today it's like, of course they see you from a little baby until now, and now you have kids and stuff, and it's just like, it's just, it's really cool. And, I hate it for brothers who may not necessarily have that, right? Because that can be a lot.
Yeah. You need other male leadership.
Yes.
I thank God for my dad, and I thank God for Dr. Robert Charles Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, those two people are instrumental to helping me to become who I am today.
Yeah.
And you need male leadership. I just don't like your dad. I'm just playing. You're a Carolina fan. He messing with me. Nah, he's cool. I don't like him during the season. But you mentioned Keontae, breathing practices. Is there a certain breathing practice that you would suggest? Or?
Yeah. So for anybody too on YouTube, there's 100. Like if you look up free breathing exercises, they got a lot of different ones. I like box breathing. It's like you breathe in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, in for 4 seconds, out. And you can hold your breaths as well. Just kind of give you a second to pause and just not think, right? Try to slow your breath down, because as your body gets regulated, hopefully your mind can slow down and catch up. There's the other ones like more intense breathing, like if you got to give a speech or something, you can breathe faster, kind of get your heart rate up. So those are a few different ones.
Okay. So that's helpful. So you have box breathing. Again, breathe in for 4 minutes, let out 4 seconds. Breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. So box breathing is a good one that our therapist recommended. Let's go this route. In her book, The Will to Change, again, Bell Hooks writes, the first act of violence that patriarchy demands of all males, that they engage in acts of psychic mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves. What a sentence. What's the importance of being aware of our emotions, of being self-aware? And if you can bring them into an aspect to that.
I like that quote because it points out like you can't cut off your emotional self, right? We're human beings. I think that's a way to try to just box us in as people, as creatures. You're gonna have emotions, and that's gonna manifest itself through any kind of means necessary, violence, or different things. So I think that being able to name your emotions it's a wide range. It's not just anger. It's not just sadness. It can be disappointment or disgust or or the positive ones like shock or awe. I think just having a bigger vocabulary for them first, so that when you feel them, you can say, "Hey, I identify that as this or that." Gives you a bigger context to kind of deal with them because they're a lot. They're strong, right?
Yeah.
So we gotta have like a big language for them.
No, that's good. So, what practices would you suggest maybe if we're trying to be aware of what emotions we're feeling? For instance, like my therapist, she told me just kind of do a self check-in at the end of the day. Hey, where am I at? You know, just for like 5 minutes, you get to a quiet place. How do I feel?
Yeah,
You know,
I like that.
is that one, or are there others
Yeah,
in
I
addition to
think
that?
that's a great one. I mentioned journaling earlier. I think a journal is a great way because nobody has to read it.
Yeah, it's
I
you.
tell my clients you can burn it if you want to. You can lock it away. Nobody, just a minute to write down how you really feel about a situation or your day. And on the flip side to that, a gratitude journal. So writing down some things that you are grateful for and maybe why you're grateful for them. I think those are some things I really tell my clients to try to practice just to give you a voice to really put it on paper.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I've been very fortunate to be in therapy as well. And going back to the journaling, the journaling has helped me tremendously. I've been doing journaling for quite some time now. I try to be consistent. I'm not consistent all the time, but it's an everyday thing for me just to honestly express and outline one, how my day was, my feelings for whatever XYZ happened, and then just kind of go from there because having that self-awareness is like the number one step of really trying to understand your identity. A lack of self-awareness, who knows what could truly happen.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Y'all saying some great stuff on this. Before we move to our next section, let's kind of dig deep right here. How can we become more vulnerable with ourselves and others?
It takes practice. Going back to the community aspect again, I've only been in Charlotte about 3 years, so during my time of, I guess, church bouncing, I guess you could say, I attended Elevation. From Elevation, they have it was like a weekly thing called groups. So I was very fortunate to essentially be locked in with a group of similar like-minded men, I would definitely say. And so we would meet every week. There were different topics on a weekly basis, but it was just a way for us to not only hold ourselves accountable, but others accountable as well. Because without a community, you could honestly kind of get lost in the fire. I would definitely say that. And so during these moments of us meeting during groups, again, in this particular group, all men, so all come from different backgrounds, different structures, different upbringings, but we were there for a common cause, and that was just to better ourselves. Not only better ourselves, but some of the men were married, so probably become better husbands, better fathers, and just better people of society as well. So it just takes that practice of talking out with people like you.
Definitely agree. Gotta talk out with other people like you, but also talk to yourself, do inner soul searching. Literally today, I took a friend through a guided meditation. So, things of that nature can help you really like find why you feel such emotions, why you're going through such turmoil in your life, and you can really like dig out like exactly what you like, why you feel, how you feel, and how you need to go about it. I feel like a lot of times we try to be superficial and stay on the surface of our problems, and we just don't want to help ourselves, or we don't want anyone else telling us in our ear that we should do this or that, because we always believe we know what's best for ourselves when that's almost never the case. So just being open to listening to yourself and others, along with talking to yourself and talking to others.
No, these are good. Yeah. If I had to ask something, I would say trust. Trust that everybody who you come in contact with is not out to hurt you. Experiences that you've had in the past are valid. They should have happened. But it's trusting that who you're forming a connection with, you get amongst a group of guys and all that, you're not everybody don't have evil intent when it comes to being in, a friendship with you. So I think that's how you can be more vulnerable with others. So you had a myriad of answers. So let's move on to the next section. If we have time, I want to come back around to something, but let's see where we're at. In an article, since we're on brotherhood, what a perfect segue in community. Thank you for getting us started with that, Jamar. In the article, the author says, I believe that a big change that we need to have within the Black male community is a renewed sense of brotherhood and community. There's too much unnecessary competition. How can we refrain from viewing one another from a competitive lens?
That's good.
I think for me, and this is something that I learned while I was in school, right? Like, so I was playing football, and you always hear like you got to compete, right? Mm-hmm. And I always thought that meant like, okay, the person aside from me, like I got to compete and beat them, right? And that's true, like you do, but what I didn't understand and what I kind of learned at a later time was that in my preparation, that's really where the competition starts, right? Like, so the better prepared that I am, right? Once I step to that line and it's time for me to actually perform, the work that I did prior to is what's actually going to stand out. Mm-hmm. So it's the focus isn't on the other individual. The focus should be on how do I better myself, right? And I'm still competing, right? But I'm not. My mindset isn't on I need to be better than you. It's I need to be a better version of myself. And I think sometimes we get that thing twisted and we think I gotta be better than you. You gotta be better, like, and it's not that. It's the verse of iron sharpens iron.
It's
right?
It's like iron just is. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is. And I think when we focus on that, I think we can resolve some of that.
Yeah. It's good. Others.
You had like football as an example, and I think football or basketball is great with the black male community. You watch your favorite team. The NBA playoffs going off right now. You want your favorite player to go attack the dude that's defending them, or go get a bucket, or in football go score a touchdown. And yes, these are things that's like the competitive sense of like being better than the person across from you.
But you don't get these opportunities to go score unless you come together with your teammates and
life. Talk to people around you. Don't compete with them, but build off of them. They help you, you help them. Kind of like a quid pro quo. I feel like that's a really good way to go about life.
Good. And I think too, it's like keeping in mind that just because you never know who this person is going to interact with that you're competing against. Mm-hmm. They might cross paths with your mom, your dad, your cousin, a friend of yours, and you will probably want that person to be in their best state of mind and best state of self. So I think that just keeping a level perspective on like it's a big world, but it gets really small when you think about how might this person impact somebody I love or somebody I care for, and you probably want them to be doing their best when they do cross paths with them.
Yeah. No, y'all said some great stuff. I mean, I don't even have to ask all the question because
I was wondering too, like, as black men, we're once black
boys, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure everyone at this table has heard the saying of like we gotta be twice as good, right? And I wonder like how that plays a role in competition mindset and all that too when you encounter individuals.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it's like as good as what, right?
Yeah.
And it's like to get any kind of progression, you gotta have a starting point and figure out like what is the end point for us? Is it am I doubling down on myself against you, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good question.
Yeah. And you said something too that's interesting, like what is the goal? Like what are you trying to get to from that standpoint? And it may not be healthy or whatever, but this is like for me, like I always like have a mentality of like there is no finish line. And I kind of caused myself really to start thinking about, okay, you can have that mentality and it is healthy in some situations, but you also have to have a goal to meet, from that standpoint, you
Mhm.
know. So I've been thinking about that too. So you just kind of like sparked that, bro.
So based upon that,
Yeah.
when was the last time you just were able to sit down and just think about how far you've made it in life so far?
Oh. Okay.
I haven't, bro.
And I think that's where we get. I feel like that's where we get lost sometimes, though.
Yeah.
We are continuously looking for that next thing to do, but yet sometimes we often forget. I'm gonna paraphrase, but sometimes we are in the phase of life that we had already previously prayed for. So sometimes it's always good to sit back, relax, kick your feet up, and just decompress. Because you have to be able to understand you were not in the same spot. I would hope you're not in the same spot from last year. Let me say that everyone's situations are different.
Yeah.
And again, it's just having to understand and realize, like, wow, the stuff I've put my mind to, I've achieved it thus far. Do I want more? Yes, but let me sit back and understand, like, I did X, Y, Z to get here, and this is what I've been wanting.
Yeah.
Now let's come up with a new game plan and go from there.
I like that.
But
Yeah.
sometimes, oftentimes, I know with me personally, I at least try to do that every quarter
Okay.
because life can get hectic for sure.
Yeah.
So I have to find that me time for me to like truly decompress.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Feel that.
See, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm trying to get there.
Understand.
Because,
Understand.
you know, so my therapist always remind me, it's both a blessing and a burden to being a perfectionist.
Mhm.
The blessing is that you keep moving forward.
Correct.
That you always find something to improve.
Yeah.
Like you don't grow complacent. It's always something to do. It's always something to improve. It's always something to get better at. The downside to that is you don't ever kind of relish the moment, right? You don't ever sit back and just say like, I've already done a lot. I'm always looking at it from the mindset of done enough. There's still more to go out and conquer and do.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get to the point where I can sit and just say,
Enjoy the moment.
yeah.
It's hard. It takes time for sure. Because I know I've always been a busybody. But it wasn't until I really started doing that I was again just able to kind of redefine who Jamar is, honestly. Straight up.
That's good. So therapists, how can we get to the point to where we can just sit back and just reflect?
I think when this go back to the question about vulnerability too, is giving yourself permission, like saying, "Hey, man, it's okay." You know, finish line technically is when we all pass on. So when you're here and there, unless you want to speed that process up, we gonna have to really take our time and you know, kind of breathe, and that, you know, the journey, not the destination. That those kind of quotes that are out there, I think, especially as Black men, we can easily just look over that and say, "Oh, that's an excuse to be lazy or relax and not need to." But I think when you look at longevity in different cultures, even, and seeing how they approach work and family time and different things, they structure it differently. You know, so maybe even adopting some of those principles of like rest and really taking appreciation for self, right? And saying, you know what, if my loved one, or if you have a son, for example, do you want him to be going that hard in 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
What would you tell that person that is trying their best and succeeding and saying like, "Hey man, you're doing great," but do you give yourself permission to accept that?
So you just opened the door there. I want to go here now. It's another article. I'll be doing a lot of reading. So
Doctor stuff, man.
I just gotta be prepared if y'all don't talk. Because Reggie was saying before, he might not talk. So in the article, "The Silent Struggle of Young Black Men Who Want to Succeed," the author states, "Rest is not failure. Slowing down is not weakness. Growing slowly is still growing." So here's my question for you all. How can we properly care for ourselves while living in a society that actively dehumanizes and suppresses Black men?
Be there for each other, hold each other accountable. To some degree, as a Black man, I would again assume that we've had somewhat of similar experiences. Again, just based upon the color of our skin, that's just how it is. yeah, it's just I think it boils back up to the question as far as vulnerability. I just had it. Yeah. Vulnerability. Yeah, just being vulnerable with your friends, who you actually consider your friends, because obviously your friends would know you to some degree better than you would know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things I've been told in life is get 1% better each and every day. You know, sometimes that 1% doesn't feel enough. You like, man, I didn't get as far as I wanted to, but nothing happens overnight. You just keep going a little bit more and a little bit more, and it says rest and not failure. Know when you need to stop, reflect, and then after you get done reflecting, go again, take another step and another step, and it takes what I think is 28 days to form a habit, and it takes 10,000 reps to become an expert or something. So that's you have to know that people are always going to be in your ear. Society is always going to be against you as a black man, but you have to keep reminding yourself that you got this by yourself, and you don't need these. You don't need other people, like people are going to bring you down, but you have to bring yourself up.
Self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, self-talk is so important. Yeah. So thank you for that, Adrian.
And then honestly, my fault.
No, you.
I was gonna say honestly, and then going back to rest, you don't rest. Your health is going to decline,
Mm-hmm.
and your health declines. What good are you? Not only to again yourself, but again, if you have a family, your family and others as well.
Yeah.
And just like crisis is gonna happen too eventually in all of our lives. You know, scheduled crisis and unscheduled. And so at those times, like you don't want to be trying to draw on like some reserve, magical, non-existent energy to go out and do what you're gonna need to do.
Yeah.
And so kind of just game planning like, hey, I need to have something in the tank for, you know, if I need to handle this emergency, handle a big project or something that's thrown my way. Like we all kind of have to just keep that in mind too. It's like, hey, I gotta have a reserve somewhere.
Yeah. So I remember, I think I just said this too a couple of days ago. I remember I was taking this class last semester, Dr. Gregory Ellison, best professor I've ever had. But we was in these small groups, and he just so happened to pop into our small group. So you know when the professor pop into your group, you gotta
Really lock in.
You got to lock in.
you gotta lock in, right? And there's a group of pastors, and the discussion was how difficult it is to rest. He interjected and he said, I just want to pause right here. He said, so y'all, you mean to tell me you don't really take that many breaks from church? He said, no, it's like difficult to do that. And he said, I don't even think Jesus would say that. I don't even think Jesus would say he can't rest. That he always has to be doing something. You know, when we look at it in scripture, Jesus got away quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing that just kind of made us think, wonder
So I will say, as far as this question is concerned,
because his son's condition is declining. The father seeks Jesus because he wants more than comfort for his son, but he wants lasting transformation and complete healing. He tried seeking assistance from disciples, but they could not heal his son. Therefore, he goes directly to Jesus in a moment of vulnerability and trust and seeks healing from God and God's self. So, how does this story reframe our understanding of trust, vulnerability, and strength, specifically in men?
From I feel like in the Bible, a lot of times where people have these illnesses, like they're looked upon terribly from the community, like in this case the epileptic son, or any other time, like the man at the gate called Beautiful, you know, he was looked upon terribly by society. So it probably took a lot from the father to go out and seek help for something he's probably so ashamed and embarrassed about. That's his vulnerability, knowing that he needed help and he couldn't find it from within himself. He had to go out. And not only did he go out, but he kept asking people until he got to Jesus himself. And that takes a lot of vulnerability from him. And then the trust in, I thought your disciples could do it. They didn't, but I believe that you can. Just look upon my son favorably. Obviously, Jesus is all powerful, and he had the strength to heal the son. But that just all three parts just show that we, no matter how embarrassed we are by our situation, it's okay to go look for help. And when you go look for help, go to someone that you trust, and then allow them to lend some of their strength to you until you can do it for yourself.
That's real. I think you can,
I want to say, in this text, vulnerability is strength. The man is exercising vulnerability and coming up to Jesus with his son in a crowd. One admitting that he has tried every single way possible, and his son hasn't been able to be healed. And I think that in itself is strength. Vulnerability is also saying the fact that it wasn't a sure thing that Jesus was going to say yes. The unfortunate thing when we read scripture, we think that Jesus healed everybody, but we also don't. Jesus didn't heal everybody during this time. We're just reading the ones that he did, but Jesus was around, and it was a lot of people that still were unhealed. It's not that there's a defect in Jesus' power; it's just they didn't get to Jesus. And then, so it's like, one, Jesus looks at this guy, and man is vulnerable because he doesn't know if he's gonna be rejected or even if he's gonna be able to get to Jesus in a crowd.
I want to push back on something, because I think it also shows the faith of that father and the determination of it too, right? So I know you said earlier, like, he didn't know if Jesus was going to do it. Part of me is like, I felt like he said, no matter what,
Yeah.
he knew.
Yeah.
You know, it's that the love that the father had for his son was like, nothing is going to deny me to get to Jesus, because he's the only hope that I have in this situation. Yeah. And I know sometimes we talk about a mother's love, which I'm not denying, right? But I think a father's love is demonstrated there as well. Yeah. And I think as men, we show our love differently, but I think we show our love sometimes in our productivity and how we go about doing things and serving our families and communities. So,
yeah.
Tough love, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. I don't think it's a pushback at all by any stretch of imagination. As it is, we in agreement with each other. The father was relentless in this.
Yep.
And yeah, he did have the mindset like, I'm going to get to Jesus.
Yep.
And thank God that Jesus showed grace. But I think that right there is strength. In a moment of trust and vulnerability, he modeled strength. He modeled faith. He modeled active hope,
Mm.
that God was going to do something. Um, anything else to add to the
Yeah.
story?
I think the word that comes to my mind is desperation. Like,
Yeah.
clearly he's desperate to get his son help. And there's a quote, I don't know who said it out there. It's like a lot of men live lives of quiet desperation.
Mm.
Like they have the same kind of want to get well themselves and want to do different things, but they just don't vocalize it.
Mhm.
You know? So I think the biblical stories are cool because they have tangible examples. Like we can all picture the dad trying to get his son. And I think that the same thing can be applied to applicable life. Like we can still have that too, that same desperation to get well for ourselves, get our loved ones well. And Jesus is here, and that might also look like talking to somebody close to you, or that's right, going to therapy, or doing something, talking to your pastor, right? Like we can have that desperation met in certain ways, and that does take strength. It takes a lot of trust and vulnerability. Like if I open myself up, there might be somebody who can help me, right? There might be an avenue that I didn't think about that can help me get to where I want to go. So,
Yeah.
I think all that honestly ties in with some the adjectives being scary, resilient, and unique. Because at the end of the day, this dad he had to drop his pride and ego to
Yeah.
find the best solution for the strength of his son, which is something that we need as men to be able to really drop that pride and ego. Going back to what you were saying, that tough love. Whether that was again from home, I played sports throughout my entire life. So sports, football, basketball, baseball, did it. So similar situations, but when it comes to really wanting to move, I guess according to God's word, you do need to drop that pride and ego aside. And that just kind of situation I had in 2023, feel like I went through because of how I was moving in life. I was just moving fast, doing whatever. Then situation happened, and then I'm just like I had to recalibrate myself, and again drop my pride and ego. One of the reasons why I sought out therapy, and then from there it was just a whole change within myself. At the end of the day,
Wow.
I think you kept mentioning dropping your pride and ego, and that just reminded me like one of the most common prayers that us Christians use is we ask the Lord to decrease us so we can increase in Him, and if you keep an ego, if you keep pride, there's no way you can get closer to God. You gotta let that go so you can have a connection with Him.
Yeah, you have to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
right? With God, you have to be vulnerable. Putting up boundaries with yourself and with God is not going to help. You have to be vulnerable. And in that, when you are, God is not going to drop you. Yeah. God will not drop you. Well, beloved, we say thank you for joining this conversation. I want to say thank you to my panelists for joining me on this evening. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you for sticking around, y'all. It's been a week with technology in the church. Things been going on. The gremlins gonna get into the system, but nonetheless, still a marvelous conversation. I want to say thank you to Paige, Ms. Deb, all who have a hand in making CAYA to be what it is. Thank you to these wonderful panelists. We will see you in a couple of weeks with another CAYA. Thank you for joining. Other than that, y'all be
One more
well.
thing.
We will see you soon.